Hey, what's up guys, Will here for GSM Arena, back again with yet another Samsung mid-range phone. This time it's the Galaxy A41. It's a much smaller, more compact version of its A-series cousins, but what else does it have to offer? Let's find out in our full review. The Galaxy A41's looks wouldn't surprise anyone familiar with Samsung's recent phones. It stays true to the Samsung design. But the major difference here is the A41's smaller size. The phone is built of plastic, not glass, yet its gradient back panel is still quite reflective and eye-catching. You'll notice the subtle geometric line patterns, typical of Samsung's mid-range lineup. The A41 is one of the more compact phones we've handled in a while. It's just a little bit bigger than the recent iPhone SE. The device is thin, light, and quite easy and comfortable to use in one hand. At around $250, the A41 may be one of the smallest and cheapest new phones with a SuperAMOLED screen. It's a 6.1-inch panel with a 1080p resolution and a U-shaped notch cutout for the selfie cam. The display's performance is great, as you'd expect from Samsung. You get deep, inky blacks, plenty of sharpness, and excellent brightness. We measured a maximum of around 415 nits with the slider, and a boost to up to 625 nits when in auto mode out in the sun. Colors are vivid, but you can opt to make them quite accurate based on your display settings. Under the display sits an optical fingerprint scanner, and it's reliable to wake up and unlock the phone. It isn't very fast though, usually requiring at least a couple of seconds. The Galaxy A41 has a single bottom firing loudspeaker. Loudness is below average, but the A41 does do surprisingly well with vocals and midtones, and you can even hear a bit of bass. Like Samsung's other mid-rangers, the A41 has a 3.5mm audio jack for headphones, and there's also support for FM radio with them plugged in. You only get 64 gigs of storage on board the device. It's not a ton, but at least it is expandable via microSD. The phone's interface is familiar. It's the latest version of Samsung's One UI over Android 10, which you'll find on all of its recent phones. It's quite smooth and bloat-free. You get an app drawer to store your apps in, as well as edge panels which you can use to hold shortcuts. Plus there's support for NFC, for contactless payments and connectivity. At the heart of the Galaxy A41 is a MediaTek Helio P65 chipset, the same as on the Galaxy A31. And just like with its cousin, performance here is decent for everyday tasks, but you don't get a lot of raw power, especially from the GPU. Benchmark scores fall behind most competitors, and this probably isn't the phone to buy if you're into heavy gaming on your phone. As far as battery life goes, we were impressed by the Galaxy A41. Its battery isn't huge. It's 3500 mAh, but the phone was still able to score a great endurance rating of 102 hours in our battery life tests. The A41 supports 15-watt charging, and the speed isn't super fast, but it's okay. We were able to go from 0 to 38% charge in half an hour. Unlike some of this year's other A-series phones, the Galaxy A41 has 3 cameras on the back, not 4. There's a 48-megapixel quad-Bayer main camera, an 8-megapixel ultra-wide cam, and a depth sensor. You don't get a dedicated macro cam here. Shots from the main camera come out in 12 megapixels, and they're decent. They have excellent contrast, lively colors, great dynamic range, and low noise. The detail level is just average though, with complex areas sometimes looking a bit smudgy. There is a high-res 48-megapixel mode you can find within the settings. This does a great job. The images look very detailed, with great contrast and colors. The dynamic range is a bit more narrow than the regular shots though. Portraits are taken with the main cam along with the depth sensor. These are excellent. There's abundant detail, great contrast, and proficient subject separation. The 8-megapixel photos from the fixed focus ultra-wide camera are decent. They have excellent dynamic range, contrast, and colors. However, the detail level isn't great here. In low light, photos taken with the main cam are pretty good for this price point. There's enough detail and good contrast. The colors are a bit off and there's plenty of noise, but the results are usable. There is no way to improve the results through night mode though, since the A41 doesn't support that feature. Shots from the ultra-wide at night give us a similar impression. They're noisy, and the detail level is worse than the main cams, but these are still usable. The A41 has a 25 megapixel front-facing camera, and selfies are pretty good. They can come out in either 8 or 12 megapixels depending on the crop level. They may not be rich in detail, but the contrast, colors, and dynamic range are excellent. As far as video recording goes, the Galaxy A41 isn't very capable. It's limited to 1080p resolution, and there's no support for 60 FPS shooting. Plus, there's no stabilization here. Regardless, we like the quality of the main camera's footage. Detail is good for 1080p, colors are accurate, dynamic range is wide, and contrast is excellent. The clips coming from the ultra-wide shooter are not as detailed as those from the main cam, and the colors are more saturated. The quality here is just okay. So that's the Galaxy A41. You get a nice AMOLED display, a compact and sturdy build, great battery life, and decent camera performance for the money, just around 250 bucks. Probably the most unique thing about it though is its small form factor. You don't see compact Android phones so often these days, but people with smaller hands definitely appreciate them. Sure, the A41 has its shortcomings. The chipset performance isn't too competitive, and I wish that the camera had a night mode option or 4K video recording. But these aren't quite deal breakers, and if you're looking for a compact smartphone on a budget, the A41 is worth recommending. Thanks for watching guys, stay safe and see you on the next one.